Great fight, instant classic. Earl Spence, Sean Porter. Um, it exceeded my expectations, man. And everything I thought would happen did happen. Sean Porter, as I said before, he is this welterweight's Evander Holyfield, Joe Frazier. If you want to say Joe Frazier in terms of style, Holyfield in terms of ridiculous chin and best resume. You know, he's fought all the top welterweights in their prime, obviously outside of Crawford, who I think just turned 32 yesterday. So, you know, salute to him. Now, both Porter and Crawford said they wouldn't fight each other against their boys. So, you know, we wouldn't see that fight. But Sean Porter, man, props to him. If you watched the fight, first of all, if you didn't watch the fight, I feel bad for you. That was a classic, easily fight of the year. If you thought Sean Porter won, I have no issue. You know, it was very competitive, very close fight. I think it was a split decision. I think the scorecards was 116 to 111, 115 to 112 for Porter, and then I want to say 114 to 113 for Spence. So the knockdown in the 11th round being the deciding factor for that particular scorecard. I personally had it 116 to 111 for Spence. But like I said, if you had Porter winning or Spence winning by, I don't know, 7 rounds to 5 or 6 to 6, or Porter winning 7 to 5 or 8-4, whatever, it was a close fight. You know, really could have went either way. I felt after the 8th round, the fight was swinging towards Spence's favor. It seemed like he was slowly but surely taking control of the fight. First 8 rounds were real back and forth. I thought Sean Porter started off really good early. You know, overall, just the activity. You know, it's kind of what I've thought about opponents that have beaten Earl Spence, like in the amateurs, Omar Figueroa, Brian Carlos Castano. They're both volume guys. And, you know, Sean Porter, what gave Earl Spence problem was the volume. You know, the volume, the athleticism. You know, I did like what Spence did early was that anytime Sean got close to him, he would lean on top of him, which is something that Klitschko did a lot when he fought smaller guys, you know, put his body weight on them. Tyson Fury did it in his last fight. So when you're the taller guy, you know, best way to nullify a smaller fighter's inside work is to, you know, lean on top of him or clinch him the way Kell Brook did. But I thought that was a nice veteran trick. There were a couple questionable-ish low blows early on in the fight. The ref, Jack Reese, did warn them that Porter's belt was kind of high, so he would let him work there. So if it looks like a low blow, that's kind of why. So nothing was actually low, but watching it live, I can see why people thought it might have been a tad low. So, you know, just kind of pay attention to that if you do watch it or watch the replay or something like that. But Sean Porter's activity, throwing 4 or 5 punches at a time, I told you guys that would be the key for Sean Porter versus Earl Spence, is to outwork him. Out-hustle him. And he did, you know. You can make an argument Sean Porter won 5 out of the first 8 rounds. But I thought Earl Spence, the last 4 rounds, definitely closed the show. He got the 11th round knockdown, which was huge. Earl Spence was definitely committed to working the body. I think he landed about 120, 130 body shots. So it definitely showed in the later rounds because, like I said, after about round 8, Sean Porter's energy started slower. Both guys hurt each other. Sean Porter, I think he hurt, or not hurt, but buzzed Earl Spence probably about 3 or 4 times during the fight. I would say Earl Spence buzzed him as well about 3 or 4 times, and obviously with the knockdown. But Sean Porter, anytime he felt backed up to the corner of the ropes, he would spin Earl Spence around. Really good. I was definitely happy for Sean Porter. A lot of people didn't give Sean Porter enough credit going into the fight. And after the fight, no complaints. You know, no complaints. You know, Sean is a hell of a fighter. Definitely got to give him his credit, his respect. Best resume in that division, not even a question. Dude has mad heart. You know, I definitely respect Sean Porter. You know, I respected him before the fight, but I'm actually glad that he made it competitive and didn't get like walked down or beat down. You know, real happy for him though. I mean, I know, you know, it's a tough loss, but if they want to rematch and do it again, I don't know if it'll happen, but or at least not in the near future. But I'm all full support of it. So I'm all for rematches that make sense. That rematch definitely makes sense. Sean Porter definitely called for it in the post conference interviews and stuff like that. Not exactly after the post fight, but like, you know, when they're all done. Sean Porter said he would be down for a rematch. I would love to see it. So just have to wait and see what happens. For Errol Spence, the bad, he fought the smaller man's fight. You know, but he said that's what he wanted to do. You know, he said he wanted to prove that he can, you know, scrap with the dog of the division in Sean Porter. He definitely did that. It's probably the main reason why it became a fight of the year type fight. I told you guys, if Errol Spence's jab wasn't a factor, it could be a fight of the year, and it could be a potential upset. And that's that's what happened. Errol Spence's jab wasn't really much of a factor in this fight. I thought Sean Porter's awkwardness, speed, athleticism kind of threw him off. Not to mention the ropes were broke after the Durrell Benavidez fight. So about 10 minutes, there was a little bit of a lag. So I think that kind of threw everybody off a little bit. The first round was slower than I would anticipate in general. So I think it threw everybody off. But for Errol Spence, he really kind of just fought the smaller man's fight. Landed crucial body shots throughout the fight. He did lean on Sean Porter. But for Errol Spence, he did do a good job of cutting the ring off whenever Sean Porter did try to box. He really is good at cutting the ring off, but he didn't really follow up with his jab, though. I thought that was really key. His jab wasn't really there, but he was clearly landing the cleaner, harder, more effective shots, whether it was to the body or upstairs. Sean Porter, per usual, kind of, you know, doesn't land the cleanest work, but he did buzz Errol Spence a couple times, and Errol Spence did buzz Sean Porter. You know, it was really just a back-and-forth, tug-of-war type of fight. Both are strong. You know, both are clearly strong fighters. I would easily say these two are definitely the dogs of the division. You know, you're going to have to walk through fire to beat them. You know, if Errol Spence boxed a little bit more, I think he would have won this fight a bit more cleanly. But, hey, you know, you wanted to, you know, do the machismo route. So that's why it was controversial. That's why it was close. Like I said, I would love to see a rematch. I don't think it'll happen in the near future, but maybe down the line it could happen. Danny Garcia did hop in the ring after the fight, so most likely that's probably going to be Earl's next opponent. Manny Pacquiao, I think he's probably going to end up fighting Mikey Garcia. I'm hearing May, April-ish. That's a rumor, not official. For Errol Spence, Danny Garcia, also a rumor. I want to say February-ish, late February, early March, the latest. That's not a bad fight. I know why Danny Garcia hopped in. He said Errol Spence was hittable. Also because Porter buzzed Errol Spence a couple of times. Danny Garcia definitely hits harder than Errol Spence. But styles make fights. You know, I've told you guys, the styles that have given Errol problems have not been boxers or counterpunchers. It's really been the volume guys with a high work rate have given Errol Spence problems. Guys that throw 4 or 5 punches at a time, because Errol Spence will go into that kind of into that shell. Now, the one time he did throw when Sean, in between Sean's combinations, he dropped Sean. So he's clearly capable of doing it, but and he did land some nice counter punches throughout the fight. That, you know, he did show a little bit of a different wrinkle. I think he's better off working from the jab and you know, following it up with, you know, 2-3 combinations at a time. He did show he can counterpunch a little bit. So, like I said, he did show a different wrinkle. I do think he is the Mike McCollum of this welterweight era. Um, he is the best body puncher. You know, he showed he had the better inside fight game to the smaller fighter. So for that, you got to give him credit. He is legit the best body puncher. Um, who does have some boxing ability. I think when he combines the two of them, that's what makes him best. You know, when he boxes with the body attack, I think that's the best version of Earl Spence. Terrence Crawford, I did see a couple emojis. He had the kind of like the shh emoji with the food emoji, where he was like, you know, lipping his chops. So I'd love to see it, man. I want to see Earl Spence Crawford, Earl Spence, Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman. You know, just mix them all, man. You know, they're all great fights. Styles make fights too, though. Like I said, boxers aren't really the styles that have given Earl problems. It's been volume fighters and guys that are willing to bring it to him. Now, what I do like about the Earl Spence-Danny Garcia matchup is Danny Garcia is the best counterpuncher in that division. Best timing. He is heavy-handed. He's probably seeing Earl Spence as kind of like another Lucas Matisse type fighter, you know, just a big puncher with decent boxing ability. Well, that's a different fight. Earl Spence is not going to fight Danny Garcia the way he fought Sean Porter. If he does, he can definitely get dropped or beat up for sure. So Danny's not one to trade at all with. And Sean Porter definitely had the superior hand speed. But timing beats hand speed. Danny Garcia, he's the slower fighter, but he's got timing, you know. So Earl Spence, I would say definitely work off the jab versus Danny Garcia, or you will be hurt. Danny can crack. And for Terrence Crawford, if he thinks he's food, I think his contract's coming up to a close with the Top Rank, so maybe he might have to buy himself out and, you know, try to make a deal with Al Heyman and put some real pressure to make that fight happen, you know. Terrence Crawford says he doesn't need Earl Spence. For Hall of Fame status, no. He doesn't need Earl Spence in that regard. But to stay relevant in today's boxing, yes, he does need Earl Spence. And Earl Spence does need Terrence Crawford because anytime when two fighters are linked together, they do need each other. You know, Floyd and Pacquiao talked about it forever. Spence Crawford, Deontay Wilder, Joshua, now Wilder Fury. So notice ESPN always talks about Earl Spence, you know, not so much the other welterweights, but mostly Earl Spence. And that's because they know that's the best fight for all parties. So and I think it's good for Earl Spence to have a tough fight with Sean Porter. You know, it's a good learning experience. You're not going to blow through everybody out once you step up to that elite level competition. And actually, I see it as a blessing in disguise. And I think even Terrence Crawford, I think he needs a fight like that where he needs a guy that's going to push him to the limit, be controversial, be close. You know, Floyd had tough fights. Pacquiao had tough fights. De La Hoya, Sweet Pea, Tito Trinidad, Oscar, you know, Spence, his rival, Wilder. It's hard to go through boxing at the elite level and not have a fight or two where you just had to sweat it out and just gut it out. So I actually think is a blessing in disguise for Earl Spence. I would recommend for Earl Spence to stay in better shape after fight camps. Don't balloon up so much, especially since he is kind of a bigger guy. And these fights are going to get tougher. You know, Danny Garcia's, the Keith Thurmans. Stylistically, that's still an easier fight for him, but Keith can crack. I would say Keith is probably the hardest puncher in that division. But great fight. Would love to see a rematch, but if not, I look forward to Earl Spence, Danny Garcia. That's going to be a good fight, too. Most likely Pacquiao will probably fight Mikey Garcia next. I think Terrence Crawford's going to fight is mandatory, so, you know, handle that business. I think it was his birthday yesterday, so, you know, happy birthday to him. But welterweight division is popping, man. Boxing's in a good spot, so I have no complaints, man. Great fight. If you haven't watched it, please do. You won't regret it. But definitely drop comments, like, subscribe, stay tuned. You guys take it easy.